place is in the kingdom. Welcome.
Hey, and happy Friday. Welcome to Sisters and Saints. I'm Kim Tizer here with Carol Berry. And we hope you had a wonderful Valentine's Day yesterday. Hopefully you got your fill of chocolate. You can tell that we are ready for, or still celebrating, I guess, Valentine's Day. And in the same way that Carol and I do not prepare our scriptures, and, we don't talk about them ahead of time, we also do not coordinate our wardrobes. No. And so... Carol looks so nice. I tell you, I wanted to wear red since Valentine's Day was yesterday, and I don't own anything red, so I went to the thrift store, and this is the only thing I could find. It's a little springy. But you know what? I'm not the queen of fashion. I'm the first to admit it. And I got my black tennis shoes on, if you can't tell. But that's okay. We're going to have fun together. And we don't know where we're going with this, other than we told you last week we're going to be talking about marriage. And so we have some Bible verses that kind of line up with that, some different readings, some personal stories, as well as... What else was I thinking?
We're going to talk about the liturgical year.
That's
we said that last show, right?
I think we're going to start with that because we mentioned that last week, that we would touch on what exactly is the liturgical year. So I guess we'll just dive in with that.
Okay. Well, the liturgical year is, I call it a rhythm, but it's a calendar that the church goes by. So on the liturgical year, right now we're in ordinary time. And we just finished up the Christmas season, and then we go to ordinary time, then we'll go to Lent, and then into Easter. So our liturgical year is just a walk through the life of Christ. And we keep time with that. We keep that rhythm. So we can link that. We'll get Kathy to do that for us. We'll put some charts up for you or something that kind of shows you what we're talking about. Because if you are not Catholic, this is a new idea to you, which it was to me. Mm-hmm. But I love that we are always in rhythm with the life of Christ. It's a beautiful thing.
And beautifully said. And, just to piggyback on that, the word liturgy, many churches, not just the Catholic Church, but I think Lutherans and the Episcopalians, they have what's called a liturgy, the order of, in our case, Mass, or the order of the church service. And simply put, the word liturgy, because this was new to me, means a public service, duty, or work. So loosely, it kind of means the work of the people. So when we go to Mass, we are expected to be involved in it. We're not sitting there as spectators. We might be standing in prayer. We might be kneeling in prayer. But there's some involvement. So it's the work of the people. Just thought I'd throw that out there.
That's good.
All right. So how about, because again, yesterday was Valentine's Day. We're talking about marriage and love. I thought it might be kind of fun, Carol, if we share how we met our spouses.
Well, why don't you go first?
Me?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay. I will try to keep this brief. I was living in Germany at the time, working for AFN, which stands for American Forces Network, Europe. And I was doing news there, radio and television news. And one night, I think it was a Friday night, I had left work, went home, which was, I think, about 30 minutes away, and stopped at a pizza parlor. And I was the only person in there other than my spouse-to-be, Randy. And I had to admit, this is kind of embarrassing. He walked over to me, and I thought, oh, here we go. Someone wants my autograph. So arrogant, I know. But
how old were you at this time?
I was in my 20s. But he asked, are you Kim Hancock? And I thought, oh, yep, I need to pull out the paper and pen. And he said, yeah, I work at AFN. He was new there. I hadn't met him yet. And he said, my first sergeant, because my husband was enlisted in the Army, he said, my first sergeant suggested I find you to ask where you go to church. He said, because I haven't found a church yet. And so we started going to church together, and the rest, as they say, is history. So that's that.
And I'm going to follow that with my story.
I know a little bit about this.
I did not know her story a lot. I mean, I knew you were in Europe, I knew that part, but that was about it. So, yeah, my story is quite different. Oh my gosh. Thanks, Kim. Why did I go first?
You insisted. I mean, it's a great story. Carol tell the story. It's great.
Okay. So, most of you know, if you're from my Facebook, you know that my husband is an attorney. So I met him because a family member that I had needed legal representation, as sad as that is. But he also
This is where it gets good.
Yeah, I had been trying to get a divorce for quite a while, and so actually, my ex-husband hired him to do our divorce. So there you go.
But you've been married how long now?
We've been married 12 years.
12 years, going strong.
Yes. And God knows what he's doing. So
that's right.
And I hope that, through our stories, like I said, we're going to be very transparent, that you realize that I want to share more about, I had to go through an annulment process. There's a lot to the journey Johnny and I have taken. Mm-hmm. And so I want to be able to share that with you, but that is how we started. So
I think it's a great story. I'm glad you shared, Carol. That's so funny.
Oh my goodness.
And you all are a great match. That you complement each other well.
And we became friends first. We were really close friends first. So that worked for us. So.
And I didn't mention, Randy and I have been married 20 years. We celebrated our 20th in September. And I will tell you, it has not been easy. As a matter of fact, much of the road has been difficult. And I just want to be open and transparent about that. You use that word transparent. We do want to show that, the truth, the reality is that we are not two perfect women sitting here in front of you. We've had our own struggles. And just recently, I was listening to a pastor on the radio, and he talked about how we often struggle with the same sin, and we kind of repeat the same thing over and over again, and how you need to take a look at your life. And I started thinking about, why is it my husband and I tend to fight over the same kind of things, and like year after year. And every year I would think, really, like after 10 years, we're still fighting over this. After 15 years, we're still struggling with this. It's been 20 years. When are we going to get over this? I mean, honestly, to the point, I will just be quite frank with you, it affected our social lives, because it got to where we would fight on the way to someone's house, or we would argue before someone would come over to the house. So it got to where we didn't even want to set up things with people, because we figured we're just going to get upset. Many a time we've not looked forward to the weekends because we knew we were going to be around each other more, which meant more opportunity to argue. And this is what I discovered when I paused to look at myself, not at my husband, but at me. And I can tell you that what I've contributed to all of those years of arguing is my need to be right. And I can tell you, I usually think I am right 99% of the time. And when I'm not right, I'll tell you I wasn't right. But the issue is, I wanted others to know I was right. And I wanted my husband to recognize I was right, and usually to admit it, like, just tell me, I'm right. And my kids would be rallying around me like, Dad, yeah, Mom's right. That's what she said. And, but honestly, how important, if you struggle with that, how important is it to be right? Is it more important than having peace in your home? Sadly, for 20 years, I've thought that, because I would rather be seen as right than have peace. I would rather be seen as right than to teach my children what it means to be the bigger person, and to just let things go, and to be a peacemaker in your home. And with that, I'm just going to share just a couple of verses real quick that I looked at that we know. And I'm so sorry, this kind of went into sleep mode. But Proverbs chapter 14 verse 1 says, "Every wise woman builds her house, but a foolish one tears it down with her hands." Yes. If you feel the need to be right to the point that it's leading to arguments, that it's causing your relationship to deteriorate, you are tearing down your home with your own hands. Proverbs chapter 24 verse 3 says, "By wisdom a house is built, and by understanding it is established." So women, if we are tearing down our homes, and maybe your issue isn't that you need to be right, maybe it's something else, but we need to be wise and really see what it is we are doing. Don't look to how our spouses are wrong, what we think they're doing wrong, but what do we need to change within ourselves? Because usually, the problem is with both, and we have a part to play.
Yes.
And we need to be wise. So there you go. That's my Valentine's Day message.
That's good. That's so good. And that kind of goes along with this. I again still don't have the context fixed, so I'm going to let Kim read this because it is kind of small. But this little book, and I don't know if you can see it, is a little daily devotion that Johnny and I do. And I'll just be honest with you, he is not as faithful to this as I am. Actually, Connor and I read this more than
Connor's
Johnny and I. Yes. And so with this little devotion, if you are looking for something short to do with your spouse, this is a great devotion. And it just gives you a small verse or a quote by a saint or someone. I think one day it had Martin Luther King in there, then it has a reflection for it. So I'd like for Kim to read that to you, but it goes along with what you said. So how neat is that?
And
Holy
again,
Spirit.
We didn't plan it, just like we didn't plan our wardrobe, as I
Yeah.
said. So for today, February 15th. Okay, so this is from Proverbs, once again, chapter 19, verse 14. House and wealth are inherited from fathers, but a prudent wife is from the Lord. And here's the reflection. Prudence is not a popular virtue nowadays, yet it is essential to a successful marriage. The ability to reason is one thing, but acting on it is another. Thank God for the virtues your spouse has, be it courage, patience, fortitude, and let them know you appreciate their gifts. I think that's good. Pray that in your marriage, where one is weak, the other is strong. And it also offers a quick prayer. It just says, Holy Spirit, be with us and increase our gifts to serve you and each other.
I think what I've seen in that is just the part of the our what we have on us as women. I mean, a lot falls on the women. We need to be prudent. We need to be the ones that are following Christ. We need to let our husbands lead. They need to lead us, but we need to be submissive, as much as I hate that word.
Do we have to go there?
Right, but you know what I'm saying? Like, we need to be the bigger person. Like you were saying, we need to swallow our pride. We need to make our home a safe place and show our children and show our things. And I fail at that miserably sometimes, most of the time. But we have an important role as women to be Christ-like in our home. What is it? Mother Teresa says, to start world peace or, to find peace, you need to start it at home, right?
That's where it all starts.
Yes.
Just
So,
about,
I mean, and we are the people that start that.
we're the thermostats
That's
of
right.
our home. I've
That's
heard
right.
it said, which is true.
That's
if mama
right.
ain't happy, ain't nobody happy.
Right.
Because we make sure no one else is happy.
Oh, yes.
And is that what we want for our children once they leave home, to look back and go, man, there was so much discord at home and I don't even want to go back? Or are we creating those homes where our children want to come back and want to visit because they remember that's where they experience joy.
And I have done that in my personal life. My older children, that is what they know. That's what they lived in, unfortunately. So if you're watching today, you're a young mom, please take this to heart, because I'm sitting here with experience behind me, unfortunately, that this is all true. And you will set the tone. And yes, you may be right. Like Kim said, you may be right, but let it go. It's not that important. Then get on your knees and thank the Lord for the good qualities your husband does have, because he has some.
That's right.
And I think we focus on the negative. So seek out every day in your daily prayer and thank God for the blessings you have in your husband and what gifts he does have, because he has them. Right?
That is so good. Because we're imperfect. Do we want our spouse focusing on just the negative traits we have? We want them to see the good. So we need to be willing to see the good in others. I think that is such an excellent point. Okay, well, the show is called, again, Sisters and Saints. Thank you for tuning in. And so part of that is we want to share a saint with you, ideally every week, because, these are the heroes of the faith that really show us how to live and can help strengthen our faith. And so Carol has a saint for this week. And it's not St. Valentine, as you would think, because yesterday was his feast day, the patron saint of love and marriage. But no, you have someone else that some might not be familiar with.
I have Saint Raphael.
Very good.
Which, hey, we're in the South, and I'm going to butcher these names, so just bear with me. You know, it's
Raphael
not
sounds good, especially if you roll your R's, which I can't
do. But this is a very interesting story, and this is one that the Lord showed me in actually adoration. I read the whole book in adoration, and it was at a time that I was just seeking so much to have the Eucharist, which I know a lot of you don't even know what that is. So maybe that for next week, we look at the Eucharist.
In a nutshell, the Lord's Supper, at least you can relate to that, but we'll go in more detail maybe next week.
Yes. So in this time, the book of Tobit is not, it's only in the Catholic Bible, unfortunately. So if you are Protestant, you can look it up and you can read it just as a good book, right? This is a love story between first a son and his father, or actually a father for his son, and a love story between two friends, and a love story between a man and a woman. So the story starts out as Tobit is a man, he is a wealthy man, and he is sending his son on a journey, which was very dangerous to send with large amount of cash that he would have had with him to pay the dowry for his wife-to-be, which is Sarah. And the son's name is
Tobiah?
Tobiah, I think is the way we say it. But anyway, we butcher that, but I will. So he sends him on a journey, and he prays for a companion for him to keep him safe. And the Lord sends not, he is a saint, but it is the archangel Raphael. And he comes as a form of a man, and he goes with him on the journey, keeps him safe, and helps him find Sarah. Now, Sarah is a very interesting part of this story because Sarah has been married 7 times. And every time on the wedding night, her husband falls dead before the wedding night takes off, if you know what I mean, okay? So this poor guy is...
I think she's only had the back rub, but...
Yes. Bless her.
I'm so sorry.
So it's such a good story.
It is a good story.
So he goes and pays, to marry her. And the daddy says, hey, look, she's been married 7 times. And every time they fall dead. So you're probably going to either, everybody's laughing at you, number 1. But number 2, you better be right with the Lord.
Have your affairs in order.
Yes,
You're not going to last much longer.
And so, and by the way, his dad goes blind before this. That's why he can't make the journey. So anyway, he marries her. Of course, he doesn't die. And they go back. So this saint, Raphael, he is the saint of love in all those different ways, from the parent to the friendship to the wife. And he is also the saint of healing. He is the saint of healing. So because he goes back and he heals the father's eyes. So it's just a beautiful story, and I would encourage you, like I said, to read that, because it is... you could just read it as literature, right? It's a beautiful book. So
I kind of forgotten about that.
Yeah,
that's one of the first books that is in the Catholic Bible that I actually read. And you can read it in just quickly one sitting. So I thought that was really good. I had a verse, but I could share it another time. I think we're kind of running out of time. This has been a full show. No, it's okay. I think it's been good, and it has just moved right along. Was there anything else next week? Monday is President's Day. Let's be sure to pray for our leaders.
We need that so
from the president on down. We need to be praying for our country's leadership. And let's see, what else? Next week we will bring to you meaning of Eucharist.
Yes.
And whatever questions you may have, we'll address. And even I want to toss this out, if you have a prayer request, please feel free to send that to us as well. Our email address, which is set up now, is sistersandsaints2, the number 2, @gmail.com. So if you don't want to send it on Facebook for the world to see, I understand you can just email us. But please, send us your feedback, your comments.
And share like,
Yeah.
and please have your friends to check us out, right?
That's right.
We
We'd
want
appreciate
it
it.
more the merrier. So, and we need your feedback. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Have a blessed weekend.
Bye-bye.
Welcome home. You're no longer alone. The only safe place.